We're now talking to DeLisle. Gray, I'd like to ask you about your singing career.
Okay.
Was that always concurrent with your career as a voice actress?
Well, I grew up in a singing family. My mom was in bands, and my grandmother used to sing with Tito Puente when she was young, the Latin band leader, Tito Puente. And so we were always singing around the house, and my uncle played guitar, and we would, at every family gathering, we were always singing. So I was always writing songs. Even when I was about 5 years old, I started writing my own little songs just to myself, funny little songs, And so then I did stand-up even before I started doing cartoons, and that's kind of what led me into cartoons. But I was always singing and writing in my head, but I started doing stand-up, and then someone said, hey, you do great voices in your stand-up, you should do some cartoons. So I started doing that and stopped doing stand-up. And then I made a little money and had written all these songs, and I was like, hey, I finally have enough money from the cartoons to record the songs. So I did that and made my first record when I was, I think, 25. And then they all just kept feeding each other from there. I stopped doing stand-up until about 4 years ago, and then I'm full bore into it. I'm doing 3 sets tonight at Lambert's, 3 10-minute sets, and singing with one of the bands. And I'm not doing any cartoons while I'm here, but but I'll be doing that first thing Monday morning when I get home.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Is this your first time at South by Southwest, by the way?
No, I did when I signed with Sugar Hill Records back in 2012, I think. Yeah. So, no, I'm sorry, it was before that. Anyway, my son's 15, and everything, I think it was 2007. I made records with Sugar Hill, so I did South by then. Yeah, and I made a couple records with Sugar Hill. I only signed with them because Dolly Parton was on the label, and I know she's here at the festival this time, and she's like my biggest hero. So I'm looking forward. Maybe if I'll be able to catch that, that would be amazing. But
what was it like being on Sugar Hill?
It was different for me because I was used to making my own records and not sort of being under anyone's purview. No one really had a say in what I was doing. So I was kind of a brat in a way because I was just used to doing my own thing. So I kind of had to listen to them a little bit more about making. At one point, they wanted the record to be longer, so I went out and just recorded trains, just train noise. Mm-hmm. I just put that on the record because I was kind of annoyed that I had to make the record longer. But it ended up being kind of cool. They're sort of ghostly sounding trains at the end of The Graceful Ghost, which is a record that I did a while back. So anyway, yeah.
You also once did an album of Stephen Foster songs. Tell me how that came about.
Yeah, I was on Sugar Hill at the time, and I heard that they were doing a Stephen Foster tribute record, and I loved Stephen Foster so much, and I grew up just listening to the Carter Family and so much of that traditional bluegrass and old time. I really just love old time ballads, even of Stephen Foster's era, which is much earlier than the Carter Family. But I just asked if I could get a song, if I could do something for it. So they let me do it. And it's kind of full circle. I'm putting out a covers record in June on a label called Regional Records that was founded by Marvin Etzioni, who has been my main producer throughout my career. He started his own label finally, and he kind of lets me do anything I want to. But I said, I've written about 50 songs since the lockdown happened. So I've got tons of records coming out that are all original, but that's just a sort of putting to bed the covers I've always wanted to do. And one of them, I included that Stephen Foster cover on that record, the Stephen Foster record that won the Grammy. So that's on that record, and so it sort of ties it up with a neat little bow.
What other covers are going to be on this album?
I did a cover of T-Rex, Girl. I did a cover of Georgia on My Mind, because I actually did a fundraiser for I think it was Black Voters Matter and I did, and it was the recount. It was the Georgia recount. That's what it was. It was Georgia recount. I'm trying to remember. I did a lot of fundraisers, political, when things were under Trump. I did a lot of more progressive fundraisers. So I wanted that recount. I wanted the Democrats to win, so I wanted them to be able to. I was supporting Stacey Abrams, and I gave to her organization. So I did a cover of Georgia on My Mind and put it on Bandcamp, and any of the money went to that. So, but it ended up being a great cover, and people really liked it. So I put it on the covers record.
Well, that sounds wonderful.
Yes.
One thing I noticed, I mean, during the lockdown, were you still able to continue your voiceover work?
Thank goodness, yes, because my sister does hair and she almost lost her house. I mean, I felt so grateful to have a job where people didn't need to be in the same room with me. But I am really technically challenged, and it was really hard just setting. I didn't even have a computer. I'm not a computer person. I just have my phone, and I thought, oh, I skipped it. I skipped the computer age. I don't need to get one. I can, because phones got so good that I thought I really had outsmarted everything, and I didn't ever need to get a computer. And then when that happened, I was like, well, I guess I have to go on. I went on Amazon and got like the cheapest computer I could find. Because I thought, what's it going to last me, 30 days? I mean, we don't know how long this is going to last. And then 2 years later, I'm still using that same dang computer. I'm going to go home and use that computer. We still haven't gone back to work full time at the studios. Who knows if it'll ever happen? I think a lot of people don't want to go back, which I get it. I'm a single mom, and it was really nice being home with my kids, but I was homeschooling the kids and working full time and, trying to keep them alive. And just like, I took a few friends in who had lost their jobs, but I was really felt very lucky to be able to do my job from remotely. But now I know how to do my own auditions on my own microphone and send them in, and I'm saving a lot of money. And I used to pay $20 every time I did an audition to send it in because I didn't know how to use a computer. All my friends were doing them at home. They were like, "Oh, we just record at home and send it in," and I'm like, "I don't have a computer, and I don't really know how to work that, and I'm nervous about that," And now I'm like, "Oh, I'm saving so much money." So anyway, yeah, hopefully.
I think with a lot of people, they're learning, are learning like, hey, we can do meetings on Zoom, for instance.
Yes, yeah, it is convenient. I still don't know whether I can hug people or not, or like, what do we shake hands? I don't know, but when you do get a hug these days, it's like, oh, this is the best hug I've ever had, because you just haven't touched anybody in 2 years. So, Zoom is wonderful, but it is nice to see people in person. I kind of miss it, but I do understand why people don't want to go back. But it was a tragedy, and it was a horrible thing that happened, but there were some really beautiful things that happened from it in different friends' lives. I have a friend who was struggling with some mental issues and had medications that they were trying to get right, and they couldn't get off the hamster wheel long enough to just get on the right medicine. And now, when everything shut down, you sort of had to like sit with yourself for a minute and go, okay, like, what am I doing? What do I reconnected with people. I started writing songs again. I started playing my instrument again, and my friend was able to get on the right medication. And there are some nice things that happened. So, and I wrote a kids record. I'm putting it out in April 15th. I think April 15th. It's called Princess Mike, and it's 11 original children's songs they're cool. They're really fun, and you wouldn't even know it was a kids record were you not listening carefully to it. Actually it isn't even a kids record. It's a kids record for everyone, because it's good music. And I was a mom who, like, my kids would want to listen to kid music, and I was like, ugh, this is terrible. We're just going to listen to Johnny Cash. We're just going to listen to Buddy Holly. We'll listen to the Beatles, and now, so I put all those influences on the record, so it's actually a really good record with really good players. I have DJ Bonebreak from X is playing drums, and my ex-husband Murray Hammond from the Old 97s is playing bass, and Deke Dickerson on guitar, who's great, and my partner Eddie Clendenning. He's in the Blue Ribbon Boys, and he played Elvis on Broadway, and he's just incredible. And so we're not just any old kid band. We're the best kid band in the world. It came from homeschooling my kids, so I was trying to teach them music, and I was playing the auto harp and making up funny songs so they would be interested in the music. And then I thought, that's a really kind of a funny little cute song. I'm going to keep going. And they loved it, and they were just hungry for it. So anyway.
So you play auto harp, which other instruments?
Just auto harp. Yeah, and I write in my head, and I was figuring out my songs with people who could play instruments, for so long. And then I was like, you know what? I play the auto harp. I'm just gonna write on the auto harp, or write my song in my head, then figure it out on my auto harp, and then I can play it for people, and they'll know which chord I mean. Because sometimes it would take like an hour of them going, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And I'm like, no, it's not that. It's not that. It's this other. I don't know what chord it is. It's in my head. And finally, I would just find it on the auto harp, and it was just like a C or something, like really easy. And they were like, oh, we didn't realize it was so easy. Most of my songs are only a few chords, so.
You live in California, right?
Mm-hmm.
How is it there now with the pandemic?
It's still being taken. We went maskless outside. Everyone indoors has. I had a mask when I first got here, and then I was looking around and I was like, oh, no one's wearing masks. Okay, well, I mean, I'm triple vaxxed and I got Omicron over the Christmas break, so I'm just like, come at me, COVID.
Oh, God.
I'm bulletproof. So, yeah, I wasn't nervous. I was just worried about other people. But now if nobody else is worried about it here, I took my mask off.
Yeah, I mean, I still, as a habit, like turn my head when I cough.
Yeah, like if I sneeze or cough, I'm always like, oh, God, I get worried that people are going to think I have it. It's like, it'll be a while before we relax completely, probably.
I wonder what skills, like for voiceover work, also apply to singing.
Oh my gosh, it's very similar, because not a lot of big voiceover actors aren't singers as well. Like Tom Kenny, who plays SpongeBob, is in a band called the High Seas, and they're awesome. And most people, Billy West and Cree Summer and Tara Strong, like we all are singers, because you kind of have to have a musical ear to hear that musicality in the voice. So there's only one person who doesn't sing, and it's Frank Welker. He plays Freddie on Scooby-Doo. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing that he can't sing, because he has a great ear he does impressions and animal noises and everything. I don't understand how he doesn't, but he really is the only voice actor I know who doesn't also sing. So he's a freak of nature.
Well, I think also sometimes if you're a singer, you're taking on different personas, aren't you?
Yes, I definitely, and I had some stage fright issues. Even tonight, I'm like nervous about the show. I always have a little stage fright. I actually get nervous if I don't feel scared, because I'm like, what does that mean? That means like the energy's out of it or something. Anyway, but so I definitely have to kind of take on a persona of whoever I'm singing as, to take those nerves off, because then I think it's not me. I'm not here. It's this character, and it's sort of a protective mechanism.
Hope you don't mind my asking, which character that you voiced would you say is most like you?
Oh my goodness. Well, Daphne sounds the most like me. I also played a character called Frankie on the Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. That sounds a lot like me too. And she's most like me in the way that she lives with I lived with my grandmother until I was, a teenager. And then I took care of her when she was old. So I was with my grandmother a lot. And so is Frankie Foster. But I'm definitely not like Azula, because she's, a villain, and she's got a lot more issues than I do.
No, not Azula. I'm wondering, do you often run into fans of the cartoons who are surprised you're a singer as well?
I have to say no, because cartoon fans tend to be really thorough and very well informed, and they tend to research things pretty well. I do meet a lot of people in the music world, though, who don't know about my cartoons. Mm-hmm. So I'll be at a show and I go, I'll start doing cartoons again on Monday or whatever, and they'll say, wait, what? What is it you do? And I'm like, oh, I do. And then they'll go, oh, no, my God, no way, my kids watch that, or and then I'll do my little party tricks for them. Yeah.
I think you're right that fans of cartoons do tend to be pretty thorough and more sophisticated than they're given credit for.
It's true, yeah. Sometimes I go to them because I can't remember if I did something or not, and I'll go on the internet, or like I'll Google it and go like, I can't find it, and somebody will go, oh, it's not on your IMDb, but in 1999 you did this like incidental voice on it, and it wasn't listed, and I'm like, oh my gosh, cartoon fans are awesome.
Could you tell me a bit more about the children's record you're doing?
Yes, it's called Princess Mike. It's coming out April 15th, and it is 11 original songs. I wrote 9 of them. My friend Murray Hammond, who was also my ex-husband, he wrote one of them. It's called Trudy, and it's about a dog that pees on the carpet. And he sang it for me way back when we first started dating, and I was like, I love that. That's such a cute song. It's so cute, And I was like, we should record that. But it's hard to find a spot on a regular record for a dog that pees on the carpet. But this record is And it was funny because a lot of I was kind of listening to other kids' music, and a lot of it's kind of preachy and, like teaching you about what's bad and good and everything. But we're sort of the punk rock version of kids' music because we're just bad. We're bad kids, and we talk about, boogers and butts and just all kinds of stuff like that and make it funny. It's funny, but it's also really just good melodies, good beat, good music. We covered one song called Baby Brother by this man named Bill Carter, who's 92 years old. And it's a song about a little alien brother, like a baby brother that ends up on the porch, but he's really from space. And it's a really cute little song, but it was a kind of a big rockabilly song back in the day. But it's just, good music is good music, whether it's for kids or adults. So.
Well, I think kids are all open to stuff that might be more like the song about the dog peeing on the carpet, or even something that might be like you look at Edward Gorey, a lot of his illustrations.
Yes.
You wouldn't think they were kid friendly, but he thought, kids can handle something like
and
this.
And kids love to hear, or they don't like to be bad, but they want to hear about kids that are bad. Or there's a song on the record called Posy Bites. And my daughter's name is Posy, but so she doesn't want. She's like, I don't bite, and I was like, no, I know. But my son, they just always they would say, tell me about when you were bad when you were little. What is something that you did when you were bad? And I'll tell them, well, I was supposed to do this, but I didn't do this, or I ate chocolate when I was not supposed to, or just little things, and they just love those kind of stories. So there's a couple little songs on there about just people being the stinker, So yeah, somebody who won't watch. Was one called Monkey Butt about a boy who needs to take a bath. And, it's fun.
I think another example, even with children's literature, Judy Blume's books, sometimes one of my favorite series features Fudge.
Yes,
you remember?
Yes, I do.
He
Super
can't stay
Fudge.
out of trouble.
Yes. My oldest son, my 15-year-old, we used to read the Fudge books together a lot, yeah. And the Edward Gorey. He loved the Edward Gorey with a little string, the girl with the string around her neck whose head fell off. I don't know if you remember that. But yeah, he had a lot of weird little books. And I think everything doesn't need to be all sanitized and school all the time. That was what was fun about when I was homeschooling the kids. The music portion wasn't schoolish. It was just about fun and just like making up. And I actually had them, there's a song on the record called Toenail Soup about a dad who makes this soup for his kids, and it's got all this gross stuff in it. And I had my kids like list off things that are really gross that we could put in the soup, and they were just having the best time and learning chords and learning different, ways that music works together. And so it made it fun.
You mentioned that your uncle, for instance, was a professional musician. Did you ever get advice from him or any other family member, when it came to playing music?
Well, my grandmother was the professional. She sang with Tito Puente. My uncle just played the guitar. That's all right. My uncle just played the guitar for us, like just for fun, But my grandmother, well, she definitely said, have your family later, because once you have kids, it's really hard to, do your music and travel and do that stuff. She said, as soon as I got married and had kids, my music career kind of went down, down the toilet. She was darn right, because I was doing music, doing comedy, doing, my cartoons. And then when I got married and had my first child, who's 15 now, I hadn't written a song since he was born. You just don't have the mental space, It's just you're sort of and also I feel like songwriting is sort of you're creating, and it's sort of a fertile thing, and you're making. I always say, like, all my songs are my little children. They're not all pretty, they're not all going to go out in the world and do things. Some of them are going to just sit at home with me, but some of them are going to go off and be sung by other people. But I love them all, so they're all like my little kids. But when I had actual little kids, I was like, well, I don't have time for writing songs anymore. So that all kind of went to the back burner, but thank goodness for a little bit of time to be home and just kind of focus on that.
How many children do you have?
3. Yeah, 3 kids. I have a 5-year-old daughter, Mariposa, and a 7-year-old son named Harlan, and then Tex is my oldest, and he's like an artist. My oldest is an artist, and he's traveling the world doing his art, and he's selling his art, and he's like a wonderkind. He's going to be at the Louvre Museum in September, a special exhibition that he's been invited to be a part of, and he's designing backdrops for major television shows, and he's 15 years old. I can't believe it. He's got a bigger career than I do.
And you mentioned that you've like to listen to a lot of like traditional songs. I mean, do you ever listen to anything from like, say, outside the U.S.? else do I put it?
Oh, like folk songs from other countries?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I love Mexican folk songs because I'm Mexican and Irish, and so my grandmother's Mexican, and she, I can sing a lot of boleros in Spanish, and I listen to world music sometimes, and there's just so many beautiful things going on all over the world, and I mostly take influence from Americana, and I love the Carter family. I love Jimmy Rogers and Hank Williams and all the major things. But I listen to some of those Folkways recordings. There's a woman named Almeda Riddle that I loved. She did a song called Little Rooster that I still sing for my children. It's like, I love my little rooster loves me. Gonna cherish that chicken neath the green bay tree. Little rooster goes cock-a-doodle-doo, doodle-doo, doodle-doo. There's like a lot of little yodeling. My kids love it. I listen to some of those old Folkways recordings where they went out into the field with the field recordings and just listen. Just people from all walks of life in every community, they would have them come, and if you have a song, they would catch it. So I love those kind of things.
Did you ever have any formal training as a singer?
I never did. And I'm kind of an unschooler because so many people that I know that were professionally trained, I feel like they get so in their head about it. And also I feel like a lot of parents make the mistake of they find that their child shows some kernel of interest in something and then they just clobber it. They're like, we got to get you lessons. We got to get you, and it just kind of like it just stifles whatever they were starting to grow, because it's just, I don't know, my son, that people would always say, you got to get him in art classes, and I never did. I was like, you just do art. I'm just going to always make sure there's paper around and things to create, and now he's like a really successful artist, and I just feel like you kill the joy when you start teaching the heck out of it. It's like who are these people that are teaching your kid? They're teaching the thing. I mean, I don't know, I just feel like you should let the kids do what they're going to do and just support them in the way that they want to go. So.
It sounds like your grandmother was the same way with you.
Yes, she bought me a boombox when I was really little and all these cassettes, and so I would always sing and harmonize with myself and do little radio plays and tell jokes. It's funny, that boombox, it's just coming to me right now, but that boombox is sort of like ended up being like the gateway to everything I do now, like the jokes, the doing voices, singing. It's all from that boombox. It endlessly entertained me because she was, working a lot. My grandma worked in a factory, and also to have childcare after school, she would get me into plays so that they would watch me until like 6 o'clock. So that was, it helped her not to need a babysitter, and it fostered my acting career too. So, yeah.
Just one final question.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to young musicians starting out?
Just keep playing your instrument. Keep writing every day. Try to write every day. Just get quiet with yourself. I try to write a song almost every day if I can get a moment to myself. And don't judge it. Just start something and let it build. And at the end, you'll have a song. I mean, if you sit down every day and get quiet with yourself and do something creative, whether it's drawing or writing your thing, there's a book called The Artist's Way, and there's a thing called morning papers where you just and you don't judge it. You allot that time for yourself, and I mean 9 times out of 10 you come up with something amazing. So you just have to sort of get still with yourself. This sounds kind of woo woo or whatever, but when I'm wanting to write a song, I kind of put out the vibe into the universe of this. Oh God, people are going to read this and go, oh, she's a little off. But I just kind of put it out there too. I'm like, any songwriters that are in the world, that are in the ether, that have maybe lived before or passed on or whatever. If you have a song that you want to get out into the world, I'm here. So go ahead and use me. And it's just fun. I mean, and sometimes I write songs that sound like they're super old. And I said, that must have been somebody from a long time ago. I don't know. I was just sort of the conduit.
Okay.
Anyway, out there, but fun.
Well, thank you so much. This was wonderful. Thank you.